we'll be starting our program according to the time, that is 7 p.m. sharp.
Right, right. And keep an eye how many persons are listening through the YouTube and live Facebook.
Right, sir.
Right. Thank you, Faisal. Great.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm just checking my share option.
Please, please.
Is it being shared, sir?
Yes, it is shared.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I think Dr. Saraf has joined us. Welcome, Dr. Saraf, sir.
Okay, so shall we begin? Hello.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah. So let's begin.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
A very good evening. I welcome everyone for today's session. As we all know that this month is regarded as the Hip Dysplasia Awareness Month, therefore Department of Pediatric Orthopedics, King George's Medical University has come in collaboration with Uttar Pradesh Orthopedic Association to conduct a webinar on the awareness program on the topic of early diagnosis of hip dysplasia, screening and referral guidelines. We are looking forward to a smooth and prolific program, and once again, we welcome you all. So I request all the members to kindly mute their audio in order to avoid any hindrance during the program. Question and answers would be taken at the end. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat box or WhatsApp on the number which is given below. So now I'd like to invite our UPOA President, Dr. Sanjay Dhawan sir, to start the program with a welcome address.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Very good evening, one, and I'm sorry for my delay, late entry. Really sorry.
No, you are well in time.
Very good evening to one and all present here, and I welcome you all on this for joining us on this webinar on the hip dysplasias, and I congratulate KGMU and especially Dr. Ajay Singh for taking this initiative, because it's a very new branch for UP, this pediatric orthopedics, and I'm sure that we all are going to be benefited with this. And I welcome all the guest speakers and panelists for this session, and my sincere wishes to this program, and I expect many more from them. Once again, I welcome you all with best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wisdom words. Now I'd like to invite our program chairperson, Professor Ajay Singh sir, Head of Department, Pediatric Orthopedics, KGMU, to introduce us to the theme hip dysplasia screening.
Thank you, Faisal. It's really very encouraging to start such awareness, and the response which the Department of Pediatric Orthopedic KGMU is getting. Actually, we all know that this DDH or developmental dysplasia of hip is having a very wide spectrum of representation, from dysplasia to total dislocations. As per the RBSK, that is a national program which is there to eradicate the disability in children below 6 years. And this DDH has been included in that. In view of this, and as we know that the incidence, the prevalence of this DDH in India is around 9 to 10 per 1,000 live births. And in some countries, it is very high. So in our OPD, we are getting 3-4 children in the age group of that is called the walking age group with DDH. And we thought that why not we make a team effort with the help of our pediatrician friends, the radiologist and the orthopedic surgeon, so that we can screen these patients, because everyone of us will agree that maximum children reaches first to the pediatrician. If our pediatrician can diagnose early, then maybe we will be able to do good in this field, and we will be able to diagnose and treat these DDH or dysplasias. With this concept, the UPO and KGMU is organizing this webinar, and I hope in the end we will be able to draw some guidelines which will help us in diagnosing early the DDH. I hand it over to Dr. Faisal for further proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. We have so many delegates. I once again welcome them from the bottom of my heart. Now, without any further delay, I would like to invite Dr. Shalini Tripathi, ma'am, Additional Professor, Department of Pediatrics, to share her presentation for the first talk.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. A very good evening to all of you. And at the outset, I would like to thank you, Professor Ajay Singh, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very pertinent topic. So without wasting a single minute, I am going to discuss about the developmental dysplasia of hip, the pediatrician's perspective. So I will be taking this topic as problem estimate. Who are the high risk babies? What are the early pointers of DDH in children? When we should screen as a pediatrician, how to screen, the AP guidelines, and when we are going to refer them to the orthopedic surgeon. So in India, if we see various study, the incidence varies from 1 to around 10 children per 1,000 babies screened, and this is more in northern region. But a very important thing is that around 60% of the babies who are abnormal at birth with no treatment, they become all right by 1 month. And around 88% of them, they normalize without any treatment in about 2 months. So the true percentage of the DDH becomes around 1 to 2 patients per 1,000 population. And in a study from CMC Vellore, they found the same rate of around 0.1% of the true hip dislocation. So by doing this procedure of screening the newborn babies or the early infancy, we will be able to prevent 2 early hip transplantation surgeries per 1,000 babies screened. So this is the problem estimate. Now I'm coming to risk factors, because it is very important to know the risk factors. Why? Because then in those babies who are having risk factors, it is very, very important to screen them for the DDH. So the most important risk factor is the breech position. And it is seen that the extended breech position in which the hips are flexed and the knees are extended is the highest risk. Then female sex, in which it is seen that female baby born breech has the highest risk for the developing this condition. Then important risk factor is positive family history. If there is a history of family history of early hip transplantation, then it is very important to examine that baby and to do ultrasound screening of that baby for DDH. And a very important risk factor which is coming up nowadays is an improper extremity swaddling, that is wrapping the baby in such a way that leads to actually a DDH. So babies, they can be normal at birth, but they can develop DDH in the early infancy. So in these babies, we have to be very particular, especially the female children who are born breech presentation. These are the important risk factors. And the prevalence is so high, it increases from 0.1% to 2% in the girls born breech position. So when we should actually suspect DDH? So as a pediatrician, as a parent, whenever somebody is having restricted movement in one leg while changing the diapers, or the child is having dragging behind one leg after the other when they are crawling, or one leg is appearing longer than the other. And a very important point which we can notice is a uneven skin fold in the buttocks or thigh. And later on, when they start walking, they will be having a painless limp. And if they're neglected, they actually reach in that stage. So by doing this screening, we don't want the child to reach in that stage in a neglected DDH, but actually to screen and to refer them early. So RBSK actually the guidelines which takes care of the 4Ds, in which the birth defects includes the congenital dysplasia of the hip after CTEV. It is a very important to refer if we have any patient diagnosed to the orthopedic surgeon, and these patients, they are also taken care of by this scheme of RBSK, in which the patients, they can take benefit of the government scheme also. So are there any guidelines? So if we talk of our country, actually for the DDH, we don't have any guidelines, and we are following the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines, which were released in 2016. And they say that the primary goal of us is to at least prevent or detect any DDH minimum by 6 months of age. So what are the methods which we should do to detect this examination? So AAP says that the DDH actually fulfills the criteria which is needed for a newborn screening thing to be done for a particular disorder. So DDH is actually having that priority that we should be screening all the babies within 72 hours of the birth before discharge. And if not, they can be screened at the earliest opportunity, like postnatal ward or in the immunization well baby clinics. So what test we should do? In these babies, we are going to do two manovers, that is Barlow manoeuvre and Ortolani's manoeuvre, in which we remember our important mnemonic adduction and BAD and DAB. So by Barlow's, we are taking out the dislocation, we are producing the dislocation, it is of less significance. And by Ortolani's, we are doing abducting and we are actually reducing that hip again. And this is a very, very specific and diagnostic. And if we found that after Barlow's, the hip is again relocated and dislocation is reduced, then this is very particular about dislocation of the hip, and this patient has to be referred to the orthopedic surgeon. Important to note that these tests, they should be done only in a baby who is less than 3 months old. So if a baby becomes bigger, then the tendons, they become tight, and then this test will not be able to be done. Then, so we have two tests, like abnormal Barlow test or abnormal Ortolani's test. And if the baby is also having abnormal limb length, like which is called as Galeazzi test, which will be taken, these tests will be taken in more detail by the next speaker. Or the parent and on examination, the pediatrician notices asymmetrical thigh or gluteal fold, or there is a limited adduction of a particular side of the limb, then these are the important concerns, and this patient has to be referred to the orthopedic surgeon. Important point is that when we are performing these tests, there should be more feeling of a clunk, which is very specific about Ortolani's manoeuvre, which is a diagnostic test for DDH. But if we are feeling mild clicks without any feeling of instability of the joint, that is actually because of the soft tissue movements, and they should not be taken as a positive test. And another important thing is that Barlow test, if it is positive, but followed by there is no Ortolani test is not positive, then the patient has to be kept under surveillance. It may be because of some other reason also. So pediatricians can play a very important and key role to detect and refer these babies to the orthopedic surgeons. Like we can examine each and every baby who is born and before discharge within 72 hours of birth, or if the next opportunity comes, like in immunization clinics, in the well baby clinics, while taking our ward rounds, we have to detect these 3 or 4 key points, which I have already discussed, that it may be a case of DDH. Now I am coming to the concept of safe swaddling. So basically, as a premature babies, when they are in the nursery, or the babies are being taken up by the parents, they swaddle the babies. By swaddling, it is a part of developmentally supportive care, and in neonatology, it is said that by this, the babies, they feel contained and they have an in utero feeling, so it makes them a better developed baby. But if you do it very tightly, so that the hip is forced in a adduction and knee is completely extended, then this is a very abnormal swaddling, and this is a unsafe swaddling, which leads to repeated dislocations, and it leads to later there's a risk for developmental dysplasia for such baby. So safe swaddling, what does it mean? It means that there should be a leg room for the patient to have a hip flexion and abduction possible and knee possible for the baby, so that the baby is easily able to maintain the flexion position which was there in utero, and that is a kind of safe swaddling. So we should advocate and we should tell the parents about this as a risk factor for DDH, and they should not do the unsafe swaddling. So this is a way the unsafe and very tightly packed babies are kept, and that leads to further, even if they are normal at birth, it may have a further risk of DDH. There is a slide in which the mother is actually carrying the baby on her this, and because of that it is protective for DDH. So what happens in this, the baby's legs is completely in the abduction and extended and position, and because of that, even if there is a mild dislocation, it is reduced. So it is said that in the Indian culture practice of carrying babies by the mothers, it is protective for the babies. On the other hand, the baby carriers which are keeping the baby's leg in extended position and completely adducted position, they are a risk factor, and it should be always told to the parents not to carry the baby for a very prolonged period like that. So now I'm coming to the indications. So we have suspected DDH. Now what to do? We have seen the risk factors for the DDH. We have clinically examined the patient. Now when we are going to do imaging, and which imaging we are going to do. So suppose the patient has some physical examination abnormality, and particularly the Ortolani's abnormality. Ortolani examination is abnormal. Then we have to do the ultrasound examination early. That is around 2 weeks of chronological age. But if there is physical examination is absolutely normal, and there are multiple risk factors, particularly I've told female with a breech presentation, then it is must that to rule out this DDH, one ultrasound has to be done for 6 weeks of age. And American Academy of Pediatrics also recommends to defer diagnostic hip ultrasound until age of 6 weeks because of the high rates of false positive and immature hips, which spontaneously resolve most often by 6 weeks of age. So even the minor abnormalities, if they are there, and they will be automatically become all right. So usually it is in the babies who have physical examination absolutely normal, it should be deferred till 6 weeks of age. If the baby has come to you at the age of beyond 4 months and above, then we can also do a X-ray of the pelvis, which will be taken in detail in the by the next speakers. So why we are doing at 4 months and not before that? Because the femoral head ossification occurs at 4 months of age. So before that, if we are doing it, it will be of no value. So ultrasound earlier is always indicated in a Ortolani positive hip. It also gives an idea to the orthopedic surgeon about the baseline value of the patient's hip. And another important thing is to note that a normal ultrasound at 2 months is not a guarantee. It's not a protective that this baby is not developed the DDH in the later on, because it's a dynamic disease. As the baby progress, it may even dislocate later on. So while every time the baby is coming, the pediatrician should examine for this condition also, apart from the other things. So we have already discussed that the babies who are older than 4 months, we can do the ultrasound anteroposterior and frog pelvis view. So it is indicated especially in the babies who are having normal finding in physical examination but are high risk. So we can just do a plain this X-ray, or children of any age who are symptomatic. It is seen that minor hip abnormalities which are seen in 6 weeks to 4 months, they also resolve over time. Now I'm coming to this slide that when we are particularly referring, this is very, very important recommendation given by AAP, that whenever we are having an instability or able to dislocate and followed by relocate, that is Ortolani positive, in a child 4 weeks or younger in which the parent is noticing restricted hip abduction, or a caregiver physician is concerned because of the multiple risk factors like female with breech, or there is an inconclusive examination, I'm not sure about anything, then it's very important to refer this patient to the orthopedic surgeon. At last, in this document of AAP 2016, they have given that imaging may be considered in a patient who had a breech position in the 3rd trimester, although the examination was normal, or there is a history of DDH in the family in which there is a early history of early transplantation in some of the siblings, close relatives, history of improper swaddling, and abnormal examination, which has subsequently which has normalized. So at last, I would like to end my talk by summarizing that the screening method is the physical examination, is the clinical examination is the method of choice for screening and not the ultrasound. So we should not do ultrasound of all the babies for screening the DDH. Clinical examination is the method of choice, and pediatricians will actually play a key role to detect and refer DDH to the orthopedic surgeons. American Academy of Pediatricians recommends against universal screening of DDH with ultrasound. We should understand that female children with breech presentation, they carry highest risk. And about imaging, abnormal examination, do ultrasound at 2 weeks. Multiple risk factor with normal examination, do ultrasound 6 weeks to 6 months. In children 4 months and above with normal examination, X-ray can give us a clue, and spread awareness about the safe swaddling technique in which the legs should not be too tight and there should be space for the baby to move the legs, to abduct it and to flex the knees so that they are not at a risk of developing DTH later in the life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Indeed, it was a wonderful and comprehensive presentation. Before moving with the next talk, I would like to welcome Dr. Anup Agarwal, sir, who is the Secretary of UPOA, Professor Ashish Kumar, sir, President-elect UPOA, Professor Santosh Kumar, sir, Dr. Ellery Kairuja, sir. Sir, we are overwhelmed by your presence. And thank you so much for sparing taking out some time and being with us. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Suresh Chand, Assistant Professor Pediatric Orthopedics, KGMU, to share his presentation.
Yeah, am I visible? My screen is visible?
Yes, you are visible.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That was a wonderful talk, Shalini ma'am. So good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Suresh. I'll be presenting my talk on screening examination for DDH and its role in examination. A few things in my talk are going to be repetition of, as ma'am has already described very well. But for awareness program, it's good to have a repetition of things to keep it in our practice, to have in daily practice. So okay, my slide is not changing. Faisal, can you help me? My slide is not progressing.
You can again screen out and then screen in.
Okay, is it visible now?
Share your screen.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be my brief outline in today's talk. Okay, this is again.
You can use a mouse cursor for the next slide.
Yeah, I'll use that. So is it visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go with this. So before going to examination part, I would like to give a brief idea about the anatomy, and we'll revise the anatomy. We all know that hip is a ball and socket joint. Ball refers to femoral head and socket refers to acetabulum. And the development of hip joint, that is femoral head and acetabulum, are co-independent. the head and the acetabulum, they are developing together during the whole skeletal development phase. And if there is any persistent dysplasia or dislocation, there will be incongruence and it will lead to degenerative arthritis and permanent disability. So what is hip dysplasia? When hip socket, that is acetabulum, doesn't cover the ball portion, that is the femoral head, adequately. So it's a whole spectrum of disorder, starting from almost normal hip to mild dysplasia to the extreme of dislocation when the whole of femoral head is out and it is lying very far away from the acetabulum. The older term CDH, that is congenital dislocation of hip, has been corrected to DDH, as we now know that the hip dysplasia or dislocation might not be always present at birth, and it's always a evolving process. So developmental dysplasia of hip, DDH, is the correct term, and it encompasses whole of the spectrum of hip dysplasia. So DDH is a preferred term, and mostly now DDH is a commonly used term. So screening of the hip dysplasia or DDH includes history taking and examination along with the extant investigations. So history includes history about a breech position. We all know that a breech in third trimester is also important apart from the breech during delivery. A female child is at higher risk. Having a swaddling practice is high risk, and positive family history in the first degree relative about any of the hip diseases is another risk factors. So we should always elicit these risk factors. So examination is important because DDH is silent and it is occult disease, and we'll miss it if we don't look for it specifically. So examination is the key part of the any screening program directed towards the hip dysplasia or DDH. We have to look for asymmetry. There will be asymmetry of thigh or gluteal folds. Like in this picture, there is asymmetry in the left and right side, and there are too many folds on the left side. Probably that is the affected side. This examination is better appreciated in prone position. Obviously, because of symmetry, this examination becomes difficult in bilateral dislocations. So we'll have to be more cautious in examining such cases. Another finding is apparent limb length discrepancy because hip is dislocated up. So that limb is apparently short. When we flex the hip and knee and look at the knee position from the foot end, there will be discrepancy in the height. So that is classically termed as Galeazzi sign. Obviously, that will again be masked in the bilateral cases. Now comes the classical Barlow and Ortolani test. The Barlow is a provocative test where we are checking for the instability or dislocation of a previously reduced hip. While Ortolani is reducing maneuver where we are reducing the already dislocated hip. So how should we perform it? For performing it, the child should be calm and composed and should be on the firm mattress, and the examiner is on the foot end of the patient, and we hold the leg of the child with the knee and hip in flexed position, and we keep the thumb on the medial aspect of the thigh, and all the 4 fingers are on the lateral aspect of the thigh. And for Barlow test, we are just gently adducting the limb, and we check if there is any instability or if there is any dislocation. Previous step of pushing the hip for dysplasia or dislocation is not recommended now, because that will unnecessarily create a problem or overdiagnose the issue, hip dysplasia. We have to just adduct the hip and check if there is any dislocation. This all maneuver should be gentle, and we don't have to be aggressive to prove that hip is dysplastic. For Ortolani test, we hold the legs in similar position and we abduct the limb, and with the tips of fingers of the middle and index finger, we try to push the thigh towards the inward, and we try to relocate it. If there is any clunk or palpable feeling of getting reduction, that points towards the positive Ortolani test. So in the Barlow test, we just adduct and look for any dysplasia or any dislocation or instability. And for Ortolani test, we abduct the hip and we actually feel for the reduction, the dislocated hip falls back into the acetabular cup, and there is a definitive clunk or palpable feeling of hip getting reduced. Hip clicks are not a sign of hip dysplasia, and they are because the tensor fascia lata or any myofascial tissue is rubbing over the bony prominences. A clunk or a definitive feeling of hip getting reduced is the sign of hip dysplasia. And we should always also look for associated deformities like torticollis or clubfoot associated in the child, or metatarsus adductus. And this concept is should be followed in reverse also. Like our orthopedic colleague finding a baby with clubfoot should always look for hip examination. And if we find any child with torticollis, we should always examine the foot and also examine the hip for hip dysplasia. This should be guiding for the hip dysplasia. And interestingly, as the previous speaker has mentioned, Barlow-Ortolani maneuvers are not available after the 3 months of age, because tissues are taut and the dislocating and reducing maneuver of Barlow-Ortolani are no longer there. So at this age, there will be limitation of hip abduction. There will be asymmetry of thigh folds, and there might be a positive Galeazzi sign, as well as there will be a limb-length discrepancy in cases of unilateral affection. Apart from these signs, there will be exaggerated lumbar lordosis, and we can see that from lateral aspect of the child. And if the child is walking, there will be abnormal gait, and child will be walking with a lurch and limb, that is called a Trendelenburg gait. And if it has bilateral affection, there will be a waddling gait or a duck-like walking. So in the walking age, that will be a very significant finding, and many a times parents also bring the child with that. So now we know that DDH is evolving process during the growth of child, and physical examination findings keep on changing. Having a normal physical examination at one appointment is not the guarantee that next appointment is not required or like that. So we have to examine it at every well baby clinic visit, and during examination newborn should be relaxed and it should be performed on a firm surface, and considerable patience and practice is required these to master these Barlow and Ortolani tests. Apart from screening physical examination, there are adjunct investigation in the screening of DDH. There is selective use of ultrasonography not before 6 weeks to avoid unnecessary false positive cases, and X-ray can be utilized after 3-4 months of age in the selective cases wherever indicated. So to re-emphasize, screening examination has to be done at each well baby clinic visit. That's how the concept of surveillance has come. Although we are saying it is screening, but practically it should be surveillance, and it should be periodic physical examination at every well baby clinic visit, like in the vaccination centers, and it should be followed at least up to 6 to 9 months of age. All these is done to prevent the late presentation of DDH, and there are many studies in Western and European countries that have suggested that screening program along with selective VOC or X-ray screening is helpful in reducing the prevalence of late DDH presentation. Unfortunately, no such large data is available for India, but we can take a basic principle concept from these studies. And if we look at the natural history of DDH, while benign or mild dysplasia can go undetected and they most of the time resolve spontaneously, the extreme case of DDH, that is frank dislocation, if treated early, have very good results, and if it is treated late, it will have less satisfactory outcomes with a number of complications. And if it is left without treatment, there will be limb arthritis and painful disability to the child. So treatment of DDH is age dependent. The earlier we diagnose it, the better is the treatment and the more favorable and predictable is the outcome. DDH before 6 months is treated with Paulich harness, which is essentially a conservative method of treatment with reliable and favorable outcomes. If detected between 6 to months of 18 months of age, we have to do close reduction and hip spica application under general anesthesia. And if it is detected after 18 months of age, we have to go for open reduction and with femoral osteotomy and pelvic osteotomy, and sometimes all these in various combinations. And there might be various complications associated with these procedures, and it is a big surgery for a child, and there are multiple resource needs for such procedures. So screening for DDH is important because the disease is occult and silent during the childhood. It is easier to treat when identified early, and if treated late, there are a number of issues with the expected results, and there are resource issues also. So all these recommendations or guidelines we have discussed, these are for the typical non-teratogenic or non-syndromic DDH. While dealing with a syndromic DDH, the guidelines may not be applicable, and such syndromic DDH should be directly referred to expert orthopedic surgeon or pediatric orthopedic surgeon. And while dealing with premature babies, a corrected gestational age should be used for the guidelines for examination as well as ultrasonography. And a breech female child is particularly at very strong risk for DDH. So it is not a bad idea to have adjunct investigation in spite of having a normal physical examination in such cases. Having an isolated Barlow positive test in a newborn without all other tests or other risk factors is not indication for referral. We can keep that child in our periodic follow-up, and we can follow the subsequent guidelines for that case. To summarize, we have to screen all the neonates at every well baby clinic visit. Physical examination is the key for screening for the program for the DDH, and we have to use selectively the USG and X-ray investigations. Always advise parents to use hip healthy swaddling technique. Refer to orthopedic surgeon if there is a positive examination, if there are associated high risk factors, or if there are parental concern, or there is doubtful examination during the screening examination. We should remember that a referral doesn't require a USG or X-ray. Whenever pediatrician or general practitioner feels that it fits into indication of referring, they can right away refer the child to the orthopedic surgeon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh. It was an excellent presentation. I would request the members to post their questions in the chat box. The questions would be taken in the end. Now I request Dr. P.K. Srivastava sir to share his presentation.
What happened?
So please share your screen.
Yeah, I'm not getting the Zoom window. अभी तो था आपकी बात हो रही थी. Yes, now I share the screen. No, why it's not coming? Why it's not coming? Share the screen. Why my screen is not coming? My presentation is open. Share.
Sorry, it is coming, sir. It is coming.
No, but I cannot see. It is coming?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Whole window. Now it's coming?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I am thankful to the Pediatric Orthopedic Department for inviting me for this awareness program on PDH. Extremely thankful to the HOD, Dr. Ajay Singh, Dr. Suresh, Dr. Faisal, the faculties, they all are well known to me, and I have been long association with Dr. Ajay Singh, who is doing excellent work. I know about more than 20 years doing pediatric orthopedics. Coming to this, I just want to minimize this window. Coming to this, I'm not going into the detail about this. The window should go like this. Okay. About the reported incidents and developmental dysplasia, Dr. Shalini and Dr. Ajay, Suresh already told you about all those things. We know about 20 per 1,000 births with majority and the females. And the risk factor, we all know that female gender ratio 1:1:8, breech presentation, oligohydramnios, metatarsus abductus, and spina bifida. The most common orthopedic disorder in newborn, it is DDH, is 1:100. Dislocation is 1:1,000. We all know that. Why it is important? It is important for the correct diagnosis, correct management to avoid the prolonged disability. That is very, very important to understand. The diagnosis of ultrasound in the first 4 months. After that, X-ray femoral head ossification, we start seeing that. What is the problem? We know that normally the hip is normal, but in immature hip, 13 to 25%, DDH we get in 2 to 4%. Most common in the left hip. Why? Because the most common intrauterine presentation of the baby is in left occipital anterior, and it is adducted against the mother's lumbosacral spine. So that is the causative factor why it is more common on the left side. Bilateral we do get in 20% of the cases. Clinical signs, Dr. Shalini has already told you, Dr. Suresh already told you, shorter thigh due to the dislocation of the femoral head, extra skin folds, loss of mild hip flexion, and the knee flexion and the positions. I'm not going to the details, but these are the diagrammatic representation for the clinical sign and the test, the Barlow's test and the Ottoline test, already explained very well by Dr. Shalini and Dr. Suresh. So what is important to understand? What is normal? It is important to understand as a radiologist, to me also, not as a clinician or pediatric orthopedic surgeon or a pediatrician. Anybody who is doing pediatric radiology or whatever radiology, they also should understand what is the thing important to understand. What is normal, what is subluxation, and what is dislocation. Because if you know the things, then only you can diagnose properly. The displacement of the joint with some contact remaining between the articular surface, that is the subluxation. Dislocation is a complete displacement of the joint with no contact between the original articular surface, that is the dislocation. So causes, I'm not going to detail. Female gender, white race, breech delivery, oligohydramnios, maternal estrogen level blocking maturation of collagen fibers. So all these things are the causative factors which are there. Why it is important to understand? And the plain X-ray, we know that the femoral head, the greater trochanter, and the part of the iliac bone, they are cartilage. They are not seen on X-ray. They are not seen on X-ray till 4 months. So that is the main important thing. Why these are the gray area, this is the bony, and this is the gray. They are all cartilage. We cannot see. What we can see, we see the X-ray like this. So this is the importance, what you can see and what you can see. X-ray give us indirect evidence. And those indirect evidence, we have to convert into direct evidence. That is very important to understand. So these are things what we don't see on X-ray, but looking at this, we can see that there must be some problem. And what we can see, so that's why there are certain lines and index. And those lines and index, they are very important to understand when we are dealing with the X-rays. And these lines are the Hill-Jenner line, Perkin line, and Shelton line. What is this? What is this? This Hill-Jenner line, that line connects the lower end of the acetabular end to the triradiate cartilage, and this runs horizontal, this yellow line. So these we can draw on a plain X-ray. Then Perkin line, It is a perpendicular line which runs around 90 degree at the upper lateral border of acetabular roof, and that cuts the Hilgenius line. And this is the area which is very, very important. The inferior medial aspect triangle, which and the femoral head in the normal hip should lie here. If it is lying outside this, it means it's a dislocation. So that is very, very important. This red zone, what I have shown you, is the area where should be the cartilaginous femoral head should be that. And how we can get it? We get it by this bisecting the Perkin line, bisecting the Hilgenius line, and this is the inferior medial area, and that we can see. And the Shelton line is the line, it is continuous arch between the inner border of the femoral neck and to the superior margin of obturator foramen, and this should be continuous, this blue line. So these three lines, they are very important, and why they are important I have already explained. The point is this: the acetabular index is the index, or it is measures the acetabular roof, most useful for the acetabular dysplasia until 6 years of the age, and this is formed between the Hilgenius line and the line and the acetabular roof. This line and this line, this is the acetabular roof, and from here to this is the acetabular index. Why it is important? Coming to this, if you come to this, you will see here, this is the Hilgenius line, this is the Perkin line, and this is the line which is bisecting the acetabular roof, the Hilgenius line, and this angle should be less than 30 degree in normal hip. If it is more than 30 degree, it means we are dealing abnormal hip, and thus it may be dislocated. This is very important. And what is this? As for the age advances, this is 27.5, then it becomes 22, and then 20, and in adulthood this becomes 0. So this is the story. And what happens if this is this Shelton line, which is a smooth line, which is running in a parabolic stage? If it is broken, it is broken in the dislocated hip, because the distance that increases, and then if it is broken, then it means you cannot draw in a smooth way. It means there is a dislocation. And what is happening here, if you see here on a plain X-ray, here we can then not only that, this is the 30 degree. If it is more than that, it means it is a dislocation. So in this way, if you come to the X-ray, what you see here, this is the Shelton line, which is smooth, but here this line has broken. It is not coming like a parabola like this. It is coming break, then there. It means this is a dislocated, head is dislocated. It is not seen in that plane. And if you see here, it is normal here, and this is normal. This is coming straight, Shelton line here coming like this. But here the Shelton line is broken. If you see this, the Shelton line is broken in DDH. So this way we draw the lines. This is the Shelton line, this is the Hilgenius line, and this is the Perkin line. In this way we measure, but the question is this: the ideal AP view of the hip. Slight rotation will make you the things, normal things abnormal. That is very, very important to understand. So normal AP view in a proper position, slight rotation on either side, either the right, will make in the normal hip looks like abnormal. So that is a very important to understand. Then coming to this, the other factors which we can see on plain X-rays, the lateral displacement of the femoral head, and what we can see here, the distance has increased. This is a normal hip. If you see there, this is a Hilgenius line, this is the Perkin line, and this here this distance is maintained, but here the distance has increase. So lateral displacement of the femoral head, medial gap. This is also known as medial gap. This is a medial gap. Capital epiphyseal dysplasia, pelvic in ileum hypoplasia or delayed fusion, and adducted attitude of the baby. So these are the signs on which we can suspect this, and these are the indirect signs. If you see the medial gap, it means you are dealing with abnormal hip. So these are the things which see on X-ray, on a proper AP view. The question is, X-ray always give indirect evidence. We need to, today we are having the technology where we get direct evidence and dynamic scanning, and that is why ultrasound comes a major role. The ultrasound is the test of choice for infant below 6 months of the age, as the proximal femoral epiphysis has not yet significantly ossified. Advantage, it is real time. You can do dynamic scanning. That is the biggest advantage of ultrasound. It allowing the stability of the hip to be assessed with stress views. So you can do the stress maneuver, whether hip is slipping out, the ball is slipping out from the acetabulum, or it is intact there. All these things we can. The position is done like a coronal scanning. In this, we can see a coronal, and then we can see the longitudinal. The pediatric hip ultrasound indications, number one is DDH. I am just confining to the DDH. Painful hip joint, transient synovitis, Perthes disease, slipped upper femoral epiphysis, trauma, and congenital. So I am just only this talk only on DDH. So coronal scanning, we can see here how this transducer should be parallel to the iliac bone, and this is very important to understand. Keep the baby in mother's lap. No other place more comfortable for the baby than the mother lap, what I do, and this is very easy to do. What anatomy we see on this? This is the diagrammatic representation, but we know that femoral cartilage, head is cartilage. We cannot see on X-ray, but on ultrasound, we can see the femoral head. Beautifully, a well-defined hypoechoic ball, which is seen there. This is the ilium. This is the diagrammatic representation. This is the ilium. Here comes the acetabular roof. Here comes the triradiate cartilage. Here comes the labrum, which makes the roof, and this is the greater trochanter. So what we see, the same thing, and this is the femoral ball, and this glistening, shining thing is the ossification center, what we see here. And this same thing, what we can see here, this is the gluteus medius muscle, this is the gluteus minimus muscle. Here comes the ilium, and this transducer should be parallel to the iliac bone. That is very, very important. It should not be like this. Or then here comes the labrum, here comes the roof. This is the triradiate cartilage, because it's not bony, it is cartilage, it is a hypoechoic, and this here it fits the femoral head. If you draw a line and you bisect it like this, if 50% of the femoral head is below this line, it means there's a good housing of the femoral head in the acetabulum cavity. So that is very important to understand. Coming to this, same way, if you see here, this is the ultrasound. Here we can see the acetabulum, all these things, what is written here, acetabular hyaline cartilage is this. This is the triradiate cartilage. Here is the ilium. This is this, and this is the labrum here. So all these things, and this is the acetabular roof. This is the diagrammatic representation of the same thing what we see on ultrasound. This is the iliac. This all is marked, so you can identify very easily. But I get this image. So I have to visualize the things in my mind. My ultrasound anatomy very clear what I'm looking. So immediately, this is right glistening thing spot is the ossification center of the femoral head. This is the iliac bone. Here comes the bony roof. Here is the labrum, which comes, and this is gap. What I cannot see clearly is something, it's the triradiate cartilage, and here comes the greater trochanter. So all this anatomy, what I'm seeing here, it is, I labeled it for making it more clear to you, but we get this image on ultrasound. So coming to this, the hip dysplasia, ultrasound is extremely sensitive. Cartilage evaluation is very easy to do. Helps in preventing the over treatment. That is very, very important to understand. Now, proper treatment, under treatment, and over treatment. So ultrasound always helps in all these things, whether you are doing babies getting under treatment, it is over treatment, or it is a proper treatment. So what we can get here, you can see here, this is a dislocated hip. Here, this is a type. I am just coming to this. These are the different things that this is lying outside. How we get all these things? The graft technique is most standard technique, worldwide accepted technique, and very easy to perform. What we can get a coronal scan where transducer axis is parallel to the iliac bone, and you can see here baby is kept like this, and your transducer axis should be along the iliac bone, and we get two angles. One is alpha angle, which is the iliac line tangential to the iliac wing. I am coming to that baseline. Second, the acetabular roof line, that line cutting this first line at the going to the triradiate cartilage. This is line that makes the alpha angle, and it should be more than 60 degrees. Then comes to the beta angle. It is for the depth of the bony acetabular roof. Means this alpha angle is for the depth of the bony acetabular roof. The beta angle is for the labrum. Cartilage roof angle is the iliac wing line, that is the baseline, and the labral line, it should be less than 55. And this shows good coverage of the cartilage, femoral head. How we get it? We get it like this. This is the baseline, iliac, and this is alpha angle, which is coming from the roof, and this is the roof. And here it comes, it cuts like this. And this angle, which is formed by this, is the alpha angle. And this should be more than 60%. 60 degrees. Then again the roof line or cartilage roof line, which is the beta angle, we draw from the labrum and cutting this iliac line or the baseline, and this is the angle which is formed here is the beta angle. So these two angles, they give about the bony coverage and the cartilage and roof line. So all these things we see. And if there is a variation from the normal value, it means we are dealing with some abnormality. So that is very, very important to understand. This is the diagram. This is the diagrammatic representation, and this is the ultrasound representation. What we get. This is the iliac line, and this is the cartilage roof line. This is the roof line, and this is the bony line. So alpha angle and the beta angle this way. Coming to this alpha angle. It reflects the depth of the bony acetabular roof and the coverage of the femoral head. Importance, yes, related with the hip maturity. So alpha angle is related with the hip maturity. Wider the angle, more mature is the hip. That is very important to understand. The smaller the angle, the greater the degree of dysplasia. Angle formed by the intersection of the baseline by the acetabular roof line, I already explained you. So again, you can see here, this is the iliac line, and this is the acetabular roof, and this is the line which is coming like this. And again, this is the acetabular roof line, and this shows the maturity of the maturity of the hip. So all these things we can see here beautifully, and these the angles which value which comes here. Here comes the alpha is coming 60.5. and beta is coming 54.1. So they both are within normal limits. Beta should be less than 55, alpha should be more than 60. These angles should be measured in both neutral position and also in stress, like deflection. So this is the neutral position, and when you are doing the stress test, pushing the head up inside the acetabulum, So in both conditions, you should measure these by in neutral position and also in the stress test. So again, coming to this, what we can see, beta angle, I already told you, it should be less than 55. It is formed by the baseline intersected by the labral line. Here is the labrum. So this is the baseline and cutting like this and this is the angle which is formed here is the beta angle and it should be less than 55. The beta angle indicates the superior displacement of the femoral head. The wider the angle, the lesser resistance to the cartilaginous roof coverage. So that way in a stress test, if it displaces, it means the cartilaginous roof is shallow. It is not giving the good coverage and the head gets slipped off from the cavity, from the house, from its proper housing on a stress set. So all these things we can see. And here we can see how we do. This is the diagrammatic representation. This is the acetabulum. This is the trochanter. Again, this is the greater trochanter. This is covered by roof here. Well, this is the normal.
Sir, I'm interrupting in between. I'd like to request you to please summarize your talk as we are running short of time.
Sure. And can you give me 2-3 minutes?
Sure, sir.
Okay. So we are here. It is normal. And here it is, when we put the stress test, it got dislocated. Can you see upward swing? So all these things we can see beautifully on ultrasound by dynamic scanning. Coming to this, again, there are different classification of grade 1, grade 2, 2A, 2B, 2C, D, grade 3, grade 4. So what grade 1 and 2 and 2A, it does not require any treatment. This may be because of the physiological immaturity. Physiological immaturity of the hip, so you have to give the time. So I am not going to detail this all depends on the values. Type 2 between 59 to 50, type 3 between 43 to 49, and graph type 3 less than 43. So all these are the angles, and how we can see these are the different area, displacement angle 50 to 59, all these things. This is the displacement we can see here. So all these things, grading we can do, what type of the displacement is there or dysplasia is there, all these things, and what requires, and accordingly we can tell the treating physician or orthopedic pediatric surgeon, look, this is this. You can reassess it after a couple of months for the maturity of the hip joint. So again, we can see the beta angles. It is a shallow angle here. It is more than 55. We cannot this and this ball is seeing dislocated, and this is again here. So all these are the different presentations of the different stages of dislocation type. What I have said, alpha 43 to 49, beta is more than 55. So all it is 81. So all this thing we can see on this. In this, the deficient cartilage roof, alpha is 43 to 49, beta is 70. It should be less than 55. So all this we can measure, and then they all require, and this is a grade 4 DDH where we can see the whole ball is seen sitting of the iliac, not in the acetabulum, but sitting on the iliac. You can see here bone, and all this thing we can see beautifully. Graph type 4, again, we cannot measure the angle. We cannot measure the angle because all the relations are distorted. All the relations are distorted. So this is graph type 4, and this required aggressive treatment. Again, we cannot, whole ball is seen lying outside from the hip joint. You can see it's seen up. This is the iliac bone, and this whole ball is seen lying outside. So this is, again, it should be here, but it is seen lying here. So you can see here, all these things we can see there. Tips and tricks. Yes, no technique is foolproof. Reproducibility and reliability of the angle measurement is controversial. That is one thing. So you have to be very, very meticulous in giving. What I do it today, I may not get the same position depending on the baby's position, but if you try to match the result what I have done, most stable hip type 1, type 2 are diagnosed with confidence on the pattern recognition of the acetabular configuration. If normal hip houses more than 50% femoral head in the acetabulum, it is stable. And by this you can see, draw a line from the baseline, and this is the ossification center, and this is the ball. If it is more than 50% is below this line, it means it's a very good housing. It does not require any treatment. Yes, high resolution ultrasound, exciting modality for evaluation of the pediatric hip diseases, ideal screening tool for the DDH, highly informative, cost effective, non-invasive, multiplanar. It does not require any sedation, any preparation, no radiation. Yes, thorough knowledge of anatomy and highly operator dependent. So you need skill to produce the best result. Again, I thank you, the Pediatric Orthopedic Department and Dr. Ajay Singh and team for giving me this opportunity to share my experience of imaging, X-ray and ultrasound for the screen for DDH. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was an excellent and comprehensive presentation. I would like to inform our members that we have got a overwhelming response. We are live on Facebook and YouTube also. At present, there are 68 people viewing us on Facebook and 51 people on YouTube. So after this, now I'd like to open the discussion for question and answer. So there is a question for Dr. Suresh. Dr. Suresh, and am I audible?
Yeah.
So there's a question for you, that what are the medico-legal implications in case of a missed examination?
Okay, the first thing is, as we have mentioned, that no examination or single examination is perfect, and DDH is always an evolving process, and examination findings can change in between. So a periodic examination is must, and we should always keep this in documented or written, that a next examination or a next periodic visit is due. If child doesn't come in the next visit, that is their fault, not our fault, right? And it is for all the orthopedic community or all the doctor community that we should avoid using the term missed or neglected DDH, that because that creates a different projection to the legal people. So if there is a late detected, late presenting DDH, so we should use terms like such, that late detected or a late presenting DDH. So we should avoid using missed diagnosis or neglected DDH. Always write that the child has subsequent follow-ups to do, and examination was done, and it should be documented. And even after that, there is always chance that a case is missed, but I think we'll be legally safe.
Right. And suppose if at birth the Barlow test is positive and all other examinations come out to be normal, so then what should be done?
Okay, so classically, even Barlow and all the older studies, they like the Bialik and et al., they have described that Barlow positivity is very high in the newborn cases. That could be a normal variation of hip, and they are gradually becoming, the acetabular cup is becoming deeper with time. So almost 88% of the Barlow positive cases if get normalized during the subsequent second examination at 6 weeks, if all other tests are negative at the newborn examination. So isolated Barlow examination is not an indication for urgent referral, and we can always examine at 6 weeks or 8 weeks vaccination schedule, and we can confirm that finding.
Right. Thank you so much. There is a question for Dr. P.K. Srivastav, sir. Sir, how should we refer a child for USG? I mean, how much time it takes, and what do you recommend before sending a child for USG?
See, no, it doesn't take much time if the child, because as I say, 6 weeks to 12 weeks and below 6 months. You see, for the first 6 months, 6 weeks, it is you to decide, but ultrasound is best below 6 months, number one, because otherwise you get the femoral head ossification, and the resolution of the probe As the age advances, because of the ossification, it becomes little difficult to see the whole ball. So before 6 months, it is excellent, no doubt about that. No preparation is required. No sedation is required. Only thing I ask patient to bring, if the baby is feeding, a feeding bottle. That's all. And if mother comes, that's fine. If the father, many times what happens, the mother is sick, some lady comes. So I just tell them to bring with a feeding bottle. That's all. And it is very easily done. So main thing, after 6 weeks, below 6 months, that is the ideal time. And you can see the things, and no preparation, no sedation, nothing else.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to open the discussion if there is any question from the members. Well, now I request Dr. Najmul Huda, sir, Additional Professor, Department of Pediatric Orthopedics, to sum up and give the take-home message.
A very good evening to all the members who are listening to this exciting and excellent webinar on a very pertinent topic.
So requesting all the other members to please mute themselves.
So after listening to all the talks, I think
Dr. Huda, you are having echo.
Suresh, can you unmute me?
Sir, आपका 2 device login है sir, एक device बंद कर. So you are logged in from 2 devices. That's why it's echoing.
Dr. Huda, you log out from one device and continue on the other one.
So please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think I am clear now.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Fine. So after listening to all the lectures, I would just try to summarize and present the take-home message of all the 3 lectures, wonderful lectures which we have just listened. So the first and foremost important point is that DDH is now on the priority list of the WHO for screening of diseases. As of now, we don't have any Indian guidelines, but yes, we follow the American Academy of Pediatric guidelines, which says that universal physical examination should be done for all the children, all the newborns. However, USG screening has to be very selective. It has to be done only in cases who are having an abnormal physical examination, that is an abnormal Ortolani test, which is more specific, or a Barlow's test, and those newborns who are having risk factors, which include a female sex, a 3rd trimester breach. Remember, a 3rd breach delivery is not important, but a breach present in the 3rd trimester is more important. A family history of DDH, and a typical scenario would be a girl with a frank breach presentation would be definitely a candidate to undergo a USG screening. Screening, the term is actually a misnomer. It should be more of surveillance program, because we have a single examination at one point of time would not help in excluding DDH. It has to be a periodic examination. And all of us, the pediatricians, the general orthopedic surgeons, the pediatric orthopedic surgeons, and of course the radiologist, all of us should be well versed in screening the neonates, because studies have shown that if a proper surveillance program is in place, then the prevalence of late presentation of DDH can be reduced to less than a half. So that is the impact of a good screening program. Ultrasound, as I told you, is to be done only in patients who are having an abnormal clinical examination. It should be done at 2 weeks of age, and those with risk factors. American Academy of Pediatrics says that no ultrasound should be done till 6 weeks of age, unless with a normal physical examination. So when doing a Barlow or an Ortolani's test, the pearl is that we have to be very, very gentle. Barlow, especially when doing a Barlow test, we just have to adduct the hip and not try to push the hip. evidences of torticollis, a clubfoot, or a metatarsus adductus should always be looked for. As far as the ultrasound screening is concerned, it is a very helpful tool in screening the neonates where the X-rays do not give us a very good indications of DDH. The graph technique is the gold standard technique. We measure the alpha and the beta angles, and the alpha angle, it tells us the depth of the acetabulum, and the beta angle, it tells us about the adequacy of the coverage of the femoral head. An alpha angle should be more than 60 in a normal hip, and a beta should be less than 55 degrees in a normal hip. So I think this summarizes everything which has been covered in the last 1 hour. Thank you so much.
Dr. Anup is there? Hello.
Yes. Now I would like to invite Dr. Anup Agarwal, sir, Secretary UPOA, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Faisal. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Professor Ajay Singh, his team and Department of Pediatrics for organizing such a wonderful webinar. And what I gather is that early diagnosis and proper management, proper referral to a pediatric orthopedic surgeon is the key in treating DDH. So perhaps I'm not well aware whether training or a sort of webinar should be done where we can include the common pediatrician and gynecologist, because they are the first person who receive the children newborn. So they should know that how to know and when to refer it to proper orthopedic surgeon. Otherwise, most of them get neglected or they come late in the diagnosis. So Department of Pediatric Orthopedic can look into it. And it was a really great learning for many of the orthopedic surgeons to know the early signs so that they cannot be neglected further and get a proper treatment. UPOA is always there, and I'm happy that Department of Pediatric Orthopedic Surgery under the able leadership of Professor Ajay Singh is doing well. And I would again request Professor Ajay Singh to continue these learning webinars on every third Friday to have more and more knowledge about common pediatric orthopedic problem. So once again, congratulations and thank you for organizing this webinar.
Hey, just to tell Dr. Ajay Singh, I got 2 messages from Kolkata. 2 radiologists attended this webinar from Kolkata, and they sent me a query also. He said, you please explain all these things when you are free. So I just want to say, not only in Lucknow, people attended from Kolkata.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, even from South, there are many audiences are there, sir. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So nice to see you all. Anup, hope everything is fine with you.
Fine, sir.
And it is my pleasure to be there. And I love to be associated with all the activities whenever you need me. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Ashish. Everyone, thank you. Thank you, Department of Pediatric Orthopedics. Thank you very much. Thank you, Faisal. Bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.